Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of this year's Knowledge Graph Technology Showcase. I do one of these every year, link down below if you want to see all the other tools that I've reviewed throughout the years. And I do this completely free. I don't get any kickbacks or promotionals or nothing from doing this. I reach out to these vendors and ask them to walk me through a demo, and I will ask questions as we go on your behalf. And I put all of my notes at the very end, so make sure you go and check those out if you are interested in my take about what I thought was very interesting about these tools. And the tool that we are going to be talking about today is that one. All right, and with that, let's go get started.
Hello, I'm Margaret Warren. I am with Metadata Authoring Systems, which created the tool that we're going to look at, image snippets. And at Metadata Authoring Systems, we're the people who want the most obscure images in the world to be able to be found by us describing them in the most precise ways possible, which means putting basically all the metadata in a unified framework that becomes part of a knowledge graph. Another way that I say it is that we really take seriously parsing image description into a knowledge graph. And so we're not just so we go beyond, a lot of things like have schema, have keywords, and we take keywords and we disambiguate those. We put them in the knowledge graph. We add relationships to them, and so that's what we do. And a lot of what you see with image snippets can be used in a lot of ways. It can be used for research. It can be used for ontology engineering. It can be used for linked data set troubleshooting. And it can also be used for, our main customers are customers who have archives that they need to put linked data descriptions on. And this is becoming increasingly more desirable, that people have linked data descriptions and annotation.
Absolutely. Well, and I would even
Yeah.
add to that, Margaret, because I see this happening all the time, which is, oh, you can just get the AI to tag it all. Except if this thing is so old or so very specific to a specific time in history, it
Yes.
actually doesn't do such a good job.
Yes.
So again, it's, AI is great and lovely and wonderful, again, with the right parameters and being responsible and all the other things that, are not as problematic and you need to watch for. But, to add in here that this is something that, especially in the archival or special collections, which, fun fact, I did start out life doing some of those things.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to describe this thing? It's like the only thing in the entire world that is that thing. It's like the AI can kind of help. It can maybe figure out it's a car, but like, is it going to know like this exact specific weird version of it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Right. Well, in fact, I was talking about that just the past 2 days. Context
Yeah.
is where I really feel like the real value is going to be as we go forward in the future. So I'm going to take you right to my main folder. And so what image snippets is really like a digital asset management system in which all of the information architecture is created from linked data,
Hmm.
from RDF data. So this means that when we are going to go and create, and the simplest thing to do is to just show you, like, I always love to start with this little example, is that if I want to add a triple, this is where we can edit triples. This is also very good for people who don't know anything about triples to
Hmm.
learn
Hmm.
about triples.
Yeah,
So,
it's no code.
yeah, it's no code. So I can type alligator. Now I have a selection here of things like DBpedia alligator, but if I'm not satisfied with those, I can go to a lookup, and we are now looking up terms across all of these different data sets.
And
So
are those all data sets configured out of the box with the tool, or do you have to set those up?
yes.
That's
So
awesome.
great question. So if I go over here, in fact, that was one of the first things I was going to show you. Um, so we call it subscribed data sets, but we can even pull in other people's own data sets. If you
Oh.
have your own vocabulary
Mhm.
of terms of which you're describing that you want to describe images with, You can do that. We can also create a new data set. So I have an entire data set based around Porsche entities. So I've created specific cars and I've created, and you can create types, you can create instances that
So,
are
Margaret, is there any, is it just read or is there also write? So, meaning I have a taxonomy that I want to use. I load it in here. I'm going through, I'm tagging up my images and I find something that I don't have in my taxonomy. Can I add it right then and there?
absolutely.
Oh, that's
You
great.
certainly can. You can add it right here. And in fact, you can use your own entities. So if I say like F4 cam, let's see if this is the way I have it. Yeah, it's probably I wrote it the other way. I can use an entity. Say I created an entity for 4cam engine. I can now create some other name for that, or I can make something a type like a Carrera engine is a type of 4cam engine. And
Hmm.
then I can write my abstract and I can add it to the Porsche data set. I can also, if I'm adding a new entity, so I have a fun one that I love to show, which is that I should like I created like that pine tree. Okay. So that pine tree is an instance, it's a pine tree that I took a lot of photos of, right? But it is a type of pine tree. So if I go look up the entity, so this is where I search the entire data set of, we have about 90,000 images in
Mm.
image snippets right now. So if I go look at pine, trees, I will find. So this is actually just that pine tree. So
Hmm.
that pine tree, if I look that up, that is a type of DBpedia pine. So I can even use types from that are existing in DBpedia or Wikidata and add them, and they get added to the image snippets data set to what or to
Now,
whatever data set you want to add them to.
that was the question I was going to ask because you just said image snippet has this many images. So is it like a collective where everybody is using the same data set, or are you saying that you can add your own data set and it would be specific to you?
So the terms we're using to describe images come from these data sets that you can do with our
Sure. But the
vocabulary.
images themselves, right?
The
Are
images themselves right now are going into one image snippets knowledge graph. So it's like the image snippets graph. So there's not so yes, you can search your own images. You can search all images or you can search your own images. So
okay,
images are yeah,
so
but it is
one
public. Yeah,
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
yeah,
So that's really good for those watching to know. Don't put anything sensitive in here. Don't
right.
put anything
Yes,
you wouldn't
yes,
want the open web to see because that's
correct.
going to show up. Okay.
Correct. Correct. So yes, it could be found, yes, by someone else. So this is like it is a linked open, archive. And
Okay.
it
And so
and
that
it is
means,
a searchable data set. And we have an endpoint.
okay.
So we have an open endpoint that's exposed. We do have a way, we have a form so you can do Sparkle searches
Mhm.
from inside of image snippets. But we also have like an external endpoint that you can use to query the images as well. We don't have to host the images on our server.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one special thing we can do when the images are hosted on our server, and that is that we can write the metadata into the image. And we
Mm.
could do this with other customers too, given that they would pull the metadata back from us. Because we actually, when I said earlier, a unified metadata platform,
Hmm.
we also take all of the administrative metadata as well and turn that into triples.
Mm-hmm.
So we are writing all of the metadata in XMP and the EXIF metadata. Whatever you choose, whatever metadata you want to choose, we are writing that both into the image as well as into the triple store. And so everything gets written as RDF. So just to show you a little bit. So here's one that's filled out a little bit more. It has a lot of triples. We can have even chain triples together, like it depicts a Fletcher Flare, which has a drivetrain, which is a Porsche, but when you share this image, you can flip the image. You have the alt text, which gets read by a screen reader. I could send this to you now anywhere. It's an HTML file.
Mhm.
I can go down and I can view the triples through our interface. Okay. But I can also look at them with using a tool like Kingsley Idaho's Open Data Sniffer. So like I can go look, there's the image. So we link to the image itself as the JPEG. This is when it's stored on our server. So see, this uses the what we call the Leo ontology, which I can
Mhm.
explain in just a second. But if I want to click on something like what is a Porsche 911? Okay, I click on that, and now I've gone to DBpedia, Porsche 911, where I have access to all of the SCOS
Mhm.
data that's included with data that comes with DBpedia. So this comes in handy in a few minutes. I will show you more of that what happens. But basically, we are writing this data into the page source as JSON LD. So everything is written as JSON LD. We also serialize it as RDFA, mainly because we've been around so long that we started with RDFA before there was such a thing as JSON LD. and then we said, and I said, well, let's just serialize it as both because we can. It gets into provenance, it gets into context. It
Mhm.
gets into, all kinds of things that ChatGPT can't actually really understand. If I put this image in ChatGPT, it might know that it might say that it's like some sort of a military looking vehicle, which in fact is what it was, but it was really a prototype amphibious vehicle. It never went into production. There were only two of
And
these
did
that
you write this description or did this come
yes.
with the
In
image?
this case, I wrote this description.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of different ways of taking the description and writing this as like we can run a couple of audio. We use a couple of third-party tools. I can't remember the name of the one that we're using off the top of my head. But we look over our entire data set and you can find entities from the text that you can choose to add to your object list. So let me show you what the Leo ontology is. So this was myself and Pat Hayes, who is a really literally famous, ontology. He's the first person ever credited to use ontology in a
Mhm.
sentence in the way that we use it today.
Mhm.
So he and I worked on this for a number of years, and we've published on it many times. So we call this the lightweight image ontology, and it's chosen to serve as intuitive guidelines for achieving better description, but there's no wrong way, meaning that the system is not going to break if you use the terms incorrectly. I mean, this was really important. We have novice users who don't necessarily, understand how to use an ontology. And this is actually a great way to learn, by the way, what an ontology is, because these terms, you can see we use the term depicts to refer to the main object in the image, while we use the word shows, which is a broader term, to refer to objects that are not as important as the main object being depicted. So here we depict gloves. Here we sort of show gloves because the person is the main person depicted. So I put visual examples to go with all of the terms in the ontology. We have looks like, when an object looks like an object, but it's not really that object, like looks like sugar. We use the term conveys for ideas, emotions, and metaphors. So anything, you could not convey another object, but it could convey a concept. When you're describing an image, I have taught people who know nothing about ontologies. If I say, here's the Leo ontology, describe this image using the Leo ontology, all the terms absolutely correctly. Like artistic element for motion blur. motion blur is like yeah, artistic element, intentional camera movement. It shows headlights. It has in background San Francisco. It has a setting of taking place at dusk. It has a setting of being on the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge. So this is all like using the ontology to relate what would normally be the keyword to the image itself.
Hmm.
And so this becomes really fun and important when we do these other things with it. So for example, we can do searches over something like bird. And so we're going to search now the whole data set. And I can choose, since I'm doing the full lookup, I can choose from all of these results. So I have over 4,000 birds here in the data set, and I'm just going to choose this one. Oops. Okay. And so what's nice about this is that we can sort. We're sorting on. So this is now looking this is now doing a Sparkle query behind the
Hmm.
scenes, the no code Sparkle query to look up bird, and we're sorting on the properties in Leo. So here's where bird is depicted. It's like the main thing in the image.
Hmm.
Whereas here's where, there might be a bird in the picture somewhere, but it shows a pelican. It's not the main thing that's
Hmm.
depicted. We can also identify regions. So like here's a region
I do
that,
like how you can kind of filter by the type that you're
yes,
using, that you're really looking at. I think that's
yeah.
probably helpful when you're trying to locate a specific image.
Yeah. Oh, very, very, very helpful. So you're sort of drilling down well, there's a region that looks like a bird, but it's not really a bird. This is actually part of a car. It's metal, but it looks like an owl. So now you're not distracted, right? Whereas if you had done like a plain text search for the keyword bird, you might have gotten way too many too many things coming back returned for that. Here we get into things where we have the chain together triples where we have a statue which is of a bird or birds like a flock of birds, or this is uses pictorially is a little bit it's actually a really easy term to use. It just means it's used in a pictorial way and not like in a it's not a literal depiction. So another thing that's really kind of cool is that we use this to not, you can see here that I have one triple that says loom. That one, but I did a search for textile arts tool. The reason why that came up was because DBpedia loom is the same as a Wikidata loom, which is a subclass of weaving tools, which is a subclass of textile arts tool. So
Oh, so
we
it helps you with that context, like you were saying.
well, we build an inference graph.
Hmm.
As soon as we write this triple, we store with it the inference. We actually create manually create a Sparkle query that goes from across DBpedia, looks at all of the DBpedia subject terms, which looks at then, and it also links any of the same as relationships. So
Hmm.
from like DBpedia to Wikidata. And then we can take advantage of both the SCOS subject terms, but we can also take advantage of the Wikidata subclass terms. So we can find all kinds of interesting things in the data set. Like I can say like Egyptian inventions, and this will kind of be, I'll show you two more things and then we'll be done. What happened? What happened? What is going on? Oh, there we go. Okay. Egyptian. It's funny because you were showing me earlier
Yeah.
inventions. Okay. When I do a lookup of that, okay, and this is looking up in our data set. So this is all Egyptian inventions, which happen to be like forks and
Hmm.
lighthouses and docks.
So it's kind of
And
educational.
it is educational, but also a loom is an invention is an Egyptian invention.
Hmm.
So we found so the only with one triple, this is a perfect example of Jim Hindler saying a little semantics goes a long way,
Yeah.
because this is a perfect example of that. Because by just having one triple, I can look for it using the knowledge graph, and I can look for it using, the linked data cloud, basically.
Hmm.
Um, the one last thing, so there's so much more I can show you, but we're just doing a little taste. And so we also can publish. So we have a WordPress plugin that lets us add, and this is, I'm also an artist. So this was, I'm going to refresh that because I know I took that out. Okay. So, this is pulling the data using a Sparkle query and loading up the WordPress gallery. So this is now on my site, which
That's
is a
nice. So
WordPress
then you can actually
site.
like use that information. And you know what? Protege used to have something where you could like publish what you were creating in there as an HTML page. They don't, I think, use that anymore. So I do like this that you can go in
Yep.
and you can, use it right
Well,
out of the gate.
so if I add one triple, all I have to do, I created an entity, which is an entity saying it's a fine art gallery of work by Margaret Warren. I created that entity in the data set, which so you can extend, the data set, like we talked about earlier with your own entities. So I added just this one triple. So now no matter how many galleries I want to use it, I mean, I could add multiple queries there. I mean, multiple triples, I'm sorry. Now all I have to do is reload my page
And there
on my
it is.
press, and
Nice.
there it is. And
That's
then
awesome.
if I click on it and flip it over, I have my alt text so that can be read from a screen reader. I have my and I don't, yeah. And then I also have my IPTC metadata. It's attached to its
Yeah, it's
provenance.
all the good stuff that we've seen from all the
Yeah.
previous information. That's awesome.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Margaret, I want to say
Yeah.
thank you so much for walking us through this.
Yeah. Well,
I know
thank
that
you.
lots of people will have lots of questions. I think this
Yes.
is a cool thing that people can go and play with because,
Yes.
it's no code. People can go and see what they want to see about it, maybe learn some
Yes.
things about ontology,
Yes.
all the good
Yes.
stuff. So
And
thank
I'm
you so
happy to walk
much.
people through it. And yes, and if anybody's got archives that they need linked data on, I'm working with some big customers over in Amsterdam right now, and we are working together on doing archiving using a combination of image snippets with some other tools. And there's so much more I could show you about
And that's
content.
okay. That's why people are going to reach out. So,
Yeah.
all
So
right. So, with that,
great.
Margaret, thank you
Yes.
so much for walking us through.
Thank
And I
you.
hope everybody, that's interested reaches out.